Hello and welcome to another installment of Superconnectivity. I am your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil Perch.
Hey Phil, glad to have you as always. Okay, so, a lot of news all around the Marvel Universe this week. Biggest news, I think, is... Did you hear about this, Phil? We are finally getting a live-action Cloak and Dagger series.
Yes, I did. I think I sent you the link.
Yes, well, I'd seen that link before, so...
Okay, fine.
Okay, no, yes, you did send me the link. You're blowing the mystery here, Phil. I'm trying to make it seem like, what? We haven't communicated all week. And then, like, oh, they're so quick on the draw, these two. Anyway. So we're getting a Cloak and Dagger series finally, which is, it's been rumored for a while. And so here's what I'm thinking is kind of awesome about it, okay? This is being put on Freeform, which used to be ABC Family, then ABC Disney Family, and then now it's Freeform. And, I'm thinking about how, we know that the MCU is all connected.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they definitely have different pockets.
Yeah.
So the Netflix universe, I think, is sort of their darker, harder area of the MCU. You have your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC, which is a very mainstream 9 o'clock show kind of place. You have the actually MCU, the actual cinema movies, which are their big tent poles, their big cornerstone pieces where the grand arcs of the universe are happening. And now we're going to have this third branch, this YA branch, if you will. And it seems to be, and just as a point of order, Freeform likewise just announced another, not a Marvel show, but another show based on a British series called Misfits, about a group of, young people who suddenly gain powers. I don't know if it's going to be its own universe, if they're going to try and tie it into the MCU, maybe making them Inhumans or something, but it does sound interesting. If you create this young adult universe, this young adult section of the MCU, so you have your mature, your max section with the Netflix. You have your sort of general audience with ABC. Then you have your teen audience, your rated T, PG-13 audience for the movies. And now we're going to have this nice sort of young adult section where you can put Cloak and Dagger. You can put The Runaways. You could even put something like Squirrel Girl there, and she's going to fit in just nice. And it seems to be a branding choice they're making where they want to make where they want to make this sort of young adult adventure series have a place for it. And I think that's pretty awesome, Phil. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. The one thing I was thinking is that, the one thing, the MCU and, Netflix have in common is, everything happens in New York. I don't know where they're planning on setting this Cloak and Dagger show, but I think it would be interesting if they set it in, another big city, Chicago or Los Angeles.
Yeah, they could. Chicago would be cool. I mean, certainly, yeah.
It would. It would give them a more realistic reason why they're not bumping it, into Avengers or Daredevil or Jessica Jones.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's absolutely true. Although, the adventures of Cloak and Dagger, and that's the thing is that there's nothing that says that Luke Cage can't wander into a Cloak and Dagger story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth of it, is that, even though that's the young adult section, you can have the big kids come and play,
Yeah, that's the thing. Are they going to, though?
Well, they might. Who knows, And, I mean, that's, and it depends on how everything expands. Cloak and Dagger is a huge hit, which I think it's going to be. I think if it's written as well as everything else in the MCU, I think that Cloak and Dagger has this real brand that they can exploit here. That Marvel and and really the young adult section. I mean, you don't really realize this, but that's like this group that has not been strongly exploited by Marvel yet. They don't have their Harry Potter. I mean, they do have the X-Men, and yes, and officially it's all young adult because it is a primarily teen audience. But they've always skewed themselves a bit more mature, and to actually start telling teen stories with our new teenage Spider-Man. Let's not forget. And I do wonder if that's a part of this, is this idea that they are going to be building out this teen-centric section of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with our Tom Holland Spider-Man. It's Tom Holland, right? Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
In his ethnically diverse Midtown High Magnet School, along with, and who knows, maybe Tandy goes there, maybe Tyrone goes there. Or, it's going to be interesting to see if there is a tie to the Spider-Man, the Spider-Man Cloak and Dagger universe. Another interesting thing that I was thinking is, Cloak, of course, is powered by the Dark Force. We have seen some Dark Force characters recently. You had Blackout in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mm-hmm. And, of course, in Agent Carter, you had Dr. Wilkes, as well as what's her name now? Madam Mask.
Whitney Frost.
Whitney Frost, yeah. Both of who have had run-ins with dark energy, both of who have studied it. And I do wonder if that zero matter principle is going to come into it somehow. If it could be a flashback, it could be some thing, who knows? Maybe Cloak is going to have some lineage to Dr. Wilkes. Wouldn't that be an interesting connection of the universe, Mm-hmm. Or maybe some lineage to Whitney Frost. It could be a very interesting universe. I really do want to find out what happens to Whitney, and really much more. I'm more interested in what happened to Whitney after that last season than what happened to Wilkes, because as we all know from being fans of Batman stories, just going crazy doesn't keep you from being a villain. She wasn't all there to start with, and I don't see her curtailing her villainy because of this. Let's see here. What else is going on in the MCU right now? Let's see. Well, of course, it's still a month until Civil War. Although they did release a new featurette highlighting the marvelous women of the MCU. Did you get a chance to look at that film?
No, I did see it was up, but I didn't get a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, me neither. We are so off. I was hoping you were going to say, yeah, of course I watched it. It's like, and I could just yes, of course. That was excellent when they did that. But no, we're both pikers.
No, I just saw footage from the last day of shooting on Doctor Strange where they're dancing in the streets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is kind of funny because they show that, they show the leap. And that there's, he probably flies after that leap,
Oh,
that
yeah.
they're going to fix that later. But it just, what he's doing here is jump, jump, jump. And, of course, that's already been memed the heck, where you have him jumping through scenes confused Vinny Barbarino. Forgotten his name now.
John Travolta?
John Travolta, thank you. Confused John Travolta. But yeah. So, but it's really a grand thing we're getting in the in our Marvel Cinematic Universe at the moment. They're really expanding gangbusters. Now, as a point, it has not been stated that Cloak and Dagger will be MCU adjacent.
Yeah, but isn't that the thing that Disney's been doing? That all the properties are sharing a universe.
I mean, officially it is. Oh, and of course, that's the other thing that they're going to be putting out there is, of course, the new Damage Control series. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, well, that is the thing. It is this idea that that is, officially that is Marvel's line. It was not officially stated that Cloak and Dagger would be, but we all assume it will be, because why would they stop now?
Yeah, I think that's their one big advantage over DC is they have this one cohesive universe.
Yes. Where you have a Flash people like and a Flash people don't like.
Exactly.
In the DC universe.
I just have a feeling Cloak and Dagger is going to be like Netflix, and you're going to get mentions of the Avengers. Maybe we'll get a mention of Daredevil, but you probably won't see them.
Oh yeah. Well, because they're all fighting their own thing. That's the thing. Is like you say, well, you don't want them to be in New York City, but New York City is a huge place.
Yeah.
Well, especially one thing to consider is that everyone's on foot.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not always easy for everyone to sort of get together at the big battle. I like the Battle of New York. Yes, superhumans probably would be drawn to that if that ever happened again. Yeah. If they have a Battle of New York in Civil War, then yeah, you probably will see that. However, in Civil War, they're going to Wakanda, so problem avoided.
But maybe they'll. Do you think Cloak and Dagger could show up in Infinity War? 'Cause what is there, like they said, like 60-some characters in there, so maybe Cloak and Dagger are in there.
I think by the time you get to Infinity War, yeah, I would highly doubt you're going to see anybody
left out.
It's going to be like, between the two films, it's going to be like it's going to be like the Mad World, where everyone, if you ever saw that film, then and I think that was the late 40s it came out, maybe the early 50s. It was color, so it might have been the 50s, but yeah, basically anyone who was anyone in comedy, if you weren't in that film, you weren't anyone in comedy. And that's how Infinity War is going to be. You're going to have all the heroes. You're going to have the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You're going to have,
so basically, if you're live action Marvel, you'll be in there.
You're going to be somewhere in there. Although I've been hearing, there are rumblings that there will be some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. making the crossover into Civil War.
Ooh.
It might just be a walk-on. You might just see May, punch somebody in the throat, which, good enough for me.
Maybe Daisy, because maybe they'll bring up Inhumans.
Yeah, well, that is a definite real possibility. Having the Secret Warriors team is going to be awesome. So speaking of Secret Warriors and speaking of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you've seen the most recent episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was Space Time, correct?
Yeah, with Ward or Hive as Neo. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Well, this was an interesting thing because there's a lot of talk about what Fitz described as time, and he made an interesting statement about time, and it's a very hard linear idea of time, which is that time, that time is like that if you lived in a two-dimensional space, you wouldn't be able to see the third dimension like in the book. There's a page and a page and a page and a page.
Yes.
And that is relatively true for the idea of the dimension of time. However, the flaw in his argument is, because his statement is you can't change the future because the future is just there. The flaw in his argument is that it assumes the future as a static existence. In other words, it's from a very film strip view of space-time, which is that if you did travel in time, you would move to a fully formed universe at a different point in that space-time line. That's interesting as an idea, and there are people who are proponents of it. Myself, I'm much more view time as a real dimension of movement, which means that if you were to go to, so let's say right now, if you were to travel, let's say you could move yourself in the time stream backwards. Right now, if you were to go backwards in time, there would be nothing there. Because in that dimension of time, as you move backwards in time, that the universe has already moved past that dimension of time. The only thing that could be there is if another universe exists. And this is this comes into this, essentially this is where you get the idea of time travel and the many worlds hypothesis. Is the idea is that if you go back there's a universe behind us in that time stream, which is like the pages in Fitz's book. The problem with that idea is that if there's a universe behind us, there's a universe in front of us, which means that at every instant, if there's what you might call a Planck second, a minimum distance of time, then the universe exists in that minimum second of time, and then above, in front of it and behind it are other universes that are in that same progression. But if the universe is essentially, if you come into this idea that there is a front universe, then all future universes are coming to existence in that. And because of quantum variability, you could really have subtle differences between each universe. So the idea, and I think this is actually going to be a theme we'll see later, because this is our second person with predictive abilities. First we had Reyna. Now we've had this guy. Well, I don't remember if they actually named him or not. I know they gave him a name, but I don't think they gave him a code name.
Well, was that the whole thing? Like Lincoln was saying, is like basically the Inhumans get a specific power because that's what nature needs. So since Reyna died, this guy got the power then. A similar ability.
That's an interesting possibility, although it should be noted that his power was decidedly different. Because
it wasn't exact, but it was similar.
Yeah,
kind of.
Well, it works in that same dimension. Although you may have more than one person with the same type of power. Really, Lincoln with his power of electromagnetism, or with electric shock, is not that different from our Inhuman Magneto guy who has the electromagnetic powers. Magnetism and electricity are very closely related. So exactly how their powers might be similar is something that the writers will have to explore at some point when they do battle. How Lincoln can create a localized magnetic field, and this other guy could even create shocks, which would be very interesting to see. Great scene. You could have Fitz and Lincoln talking about it, and Fitz basically explaining how he can use this electromagnetic charge he's creating to actually create strong magnetic fields to manipulate things. Perhaps even getting to things like use your magnetic pulse to fly and things like that. So that would be pretty awesome. We haven't seen Daisy do that yet. Do the old vibro fly trick where you point your vibro
hands down,
and shoot it down, and that lifts you up. Based off of the Orion project, which was this idea for extremely fast subliminal flight. Some scientists dreamed up back in the 50s, which was this idea that if you just throw a nuclear bomb behind you, you can and detonate it. It'll create this massive shockwave, which will push you at speeds that are a significant portion of the speed of light, so that you could explore the entire, solar system in a reasonable amount of time. And it's basically the same premise. I know that because I read that issue of Iron Man when Vibro first does that. So. I remember it because that was a James Rhodes issue, and
yes,
the Termite was the villain in that, who was a pretty cool guy. I never got the second issue because I got it from the library, and I always wondered what happened to the Termite after that. And that was right near the end of Rhodey's thing when he was starting to have problems interfacing with the armor. So, good books. Yeah, so that would be so, but the idea is that I think they're going to have to address this idea of, is time fixed or is time malleable? Is there a destiny or is there a quantum probability of altering the future if data comes back? Which is the entire point of essentially there's no point in seeing the future if you can't change it. It's a useless power if you can't change it. And if we are going to say, as Lincoln has suggested, that powers have a purpose, the only reason to have that purpose is to change things. And maybe that, and if we are going to say that, one person loses the power, another person gains the power, maybe it's the powers are looking for the person that can find their use, who can find how to use it. Because, both Reyna and this guy, they were both very untrained in their powers. And Reyna was first starting to understand her power when she dies. And because she was just then starting to understand her power, she might have, had she found a way out of it, she might have been able to change her destiny or change her fate. It's an interesting point in that, one thing to understand about that is that our first clairvoyant wasn't really clairvoyant. He just understood the factors, which was, of course, Garrett. So if Garrett is sitting there, and this is this other idea that when you're actually looking at the future, you're not actually looking at the future. Because if you go from a single universe theory moving in the dimension of time, what you're doing is you're looking at the universe as a whole and extrapolating based on everything that's in existence now where it'll be at this point in the future. Because things will follow, because cause leads to effect. And this will lead to this, and this will lead to that. And so you can extrapolate to that outer point of this is where we'll be at this point. This is what will be. And then if you have that data, maybe you can choose to alter your course. Although, of course, in the Fitzian argument is that if the data already came back, then your knowledge of that data is part of what occurs, and so you wind up steering into the curve as opposed to steering out of it. So, and I think that's the big cosmological question that you're going to be facing here. And when you're looking at a guy like Lincoln talking about the destiny of being an inhuman, I think that you open up this very big possibility of is your DNA destiny? Is destiny a thing, or do we write our own tales? And I think that is always the crux of the hero's conundrum, because the hero, going back to ancient myths, he's the one smiled on by the gods. The gods have smiled on you, Hercules. The gods have smiled on you, Perseus. The gods have smiled on you, Jason. And because they have smiled on you, now great danger and calamity will befall you. And the question becomes, can you, as a hero, change your own fate? Can you find a way past the tragedy of the hero, or can you make a better world? And can you have the apotheosis when you go beyond being merely a hero and become a god, and then you are in control of the variables of the universe, assuming that there are not gods above gods who control even them, So that's that's our cosmological question this season on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think they've laid a pretty good groundwork for it. We are going in, and let's not forget, we are going into Doctor Strange. And they have, in order to appease the Chinese censors, out and out said, the Eye of Agamotto is the time stone. It works by manipulating time. Now, if you are manipulating time, if you are manipulating the past to create the future, then the future is not set. If you're basically using the reverse hex power on Doctor Strange, or if you're basically saying that all magic is Scarlet Witch's hex power, that ability to alter probabilities in the past to create an outcome in the future, which is a pretty cool idea, then by its very definition, time cannot be fixed. Time must be in constant motion. And as has been suggested by our good friends in the Ultimates, that is the current cosmology of the Marvel comic book universe, that there are fixed events, but but time is malleable and space is malleable, and that as you move through time, things are pulled forward, and it's an interesting idea, that we can that power of retroactive continuity, as has been theorized about the Sentry. That his real power wasn't even that he was, a Superman pastiche, but that his real power was that he didn't exist in the 60s, but he made himself exist in the 60s. He willed himself to be there. And he put himself in that history, which altered time significantly. So much so that now, even though Angel doesn't even remember how you're supposed to fight the Blob. Yeah. So let's see. There's that. Over at the Distinguished Competition, Wonder Woman has been moved up 2 weeks. Good for Wonder Woman. They have created 2 unnamed movies in their lineup. What will those movies be? Given that there's 2 big characters who don't have movies currently, they were in each other's movie, but they don't have standalones yet. That's the obvious speculation. Although I think a lot of people are saying, well, they're just now considering doing a Batman and Superman film. That's DC for you.
Well, they did say. I think they said it's pretty much confirmed now that Affleck was writing a script for a solo Batman movie with Jeff Johns.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, that'll be interesting. I'd like to see that. I kind of get the feeling that Batman v Superman will be the Wolverine's origin to Deadpool. For that. So like now that he can actually make his own dang Batman film, he's going to make a good Batman film. Okay, I had to get through that. I had to get through that awful film. Now I can do a Batman film. Now I can set it in the past before Superman, and I can actually have the story of Batman and Robin and facing the Joker and showing how Batman comes to his darkness,
Yes.
Because that would be a great film. That should have been the film we had,
Yes.
Oh, DC, you can't do anything in order right, I know Marvel did Iron Man first and then got around to explaining the origins of superheroes with Superman or with Captain America, but well, we'll let DC have their day. Oh, and in other news, who's the guy who plays the Flash? The one that people like?
Oh, on TV, Grant Gustin.
Grant Gustin, yes. Grant Gustin won the Comic Book Resources March Madness poll, where they pit all of the classic TV live action versions of heroes against one another. So it was very DC heavy, obviously. Although you did have Hammond's Captain America, Hammond's Spider-Man, Brown's Captain America, and a few guys like that. So that was pretty awesome. It came down to Gustin versus Adam West, I believe. Yes, Gustin versus Adam West, and Gustin destroyed him, which surprised me. I really thought Adam West would do better, but I guess people just love Grant Gustin. So good for him. He is the Flash people like. But in the movie, we're going to get the one that nobody likes. So, on that note, I think that's enough connections for this week. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, we hit a lot of stuff.
We hit a lot of stuff. We went really long last week, so we're going to go a little short this week. Give you guys a break. Let you finish walking your dog and get on with your life. So, if you'd like to, Phil, where can I find you on the Twitters and the emails and the things?
Well, you can discuss anything Marvel or DC with me, comics, TV shows, movies. Email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am @nightwingpdp.
And, of course, if you'd like to tweet along with me as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I didn't do this week because of things, or if you'd like to tweet along with me when I do other things, you can do that at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. And you can always write to me about anything your heart's desires, from physics to comic books, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and connect with us again.